Detention is not meant to carry significance. It is a space. The hands of the clock move with an agonizing slowness. Young minds exhaling softly, fidgeting restlessly, fingers dancing over screens hidden beneath the surface. And here I am, Mrs. Holloway, the one left to oversee them long after the clock has struck 5. I do not offer my services for it. Yet, I refrain from voicing any grievances. The stillness brings a sense of solace. Aside from that Thursday, only one student remained. All others had either absolved themselves or opted out. He positioned himself beside the window. The hood is raised. Gaze lowered. Lofty. Expansive. At that awkward age, caught between the remnants of high school and the vast unknown of adulthood. He was known as Luca Meyer. 17+1. Experienced. Stillness. Detention for talking back. Yet, when I inquired about his words, he merely smirked and replied, "A genuine truth." I observed him subtly from the periphery, feigning engrossment in my book. Yet, I found myself not immersed in the pages. I observed intently, observing. His hands danced restlessly. His pen twirled effortlessly between his fingers, as if he were blissfully unaware of the motion. His gaze upon the world suggested a deep-seated disappointment, yet there remained a flicker of hope within him, a refusal to surrender just yet. At a certain moment he noticed my gaze upon him. In that fleeting moment, he offered a smile. Not arrogant, not suggestive, simply intrigued, as if I had never been a teacher, merely a woman in a serene space. I averted my gaze. Swiftly, I reassured myself that it was inconsequential. As the bell echoed through the room, signaling the end, he rose to depart but lingered momentarily by the door. "You reside close to Euclid Street, don't you?" I blinked. "How does one?" "I caught a glimpse of you as you strolled by. I found it to be quite courageous. The majority of educators commute by car." He gave a playful wink. Not in a playful manner, just in a casual way, as if he were unaware of the impact it had on me. And then he departed, and I found myself standing there, pondering the reason behind the rapid thumping of my heart in a vacant space. The following week arrived. A somber Tuesday draped in a shroud of unvoiced rain clouds. Detention had concluded ahead of schedule. I stepped out through the side door, keys clutched in my hand, already immersed in the familiar cadence of my journey home. The same 5 blocks, the same uneven pavement beneath my feet. Yet that day, he lingered in anticipation. Luca, propped against the chain-link fence as if it were his rightful place. Without a backpack, without headphones, merely lingering, as if anchored in a place devoid of alternatives. He caught sight of me, aligned, and remarked, with a nonchalance that suggested familiarity, as if this were a routine occurrence, "I thought I might join you for a stroll." For a moment I paused, extended sufficiently to become apparent. He observed. "If that isn't peculiar," he remarked. It was indeed. Indeed it was. Yet what escaped my lips was, "It's perfectly acceptable." Thus we strolled onward, next to each other. Far from it, untouched. 2 figures traversed the same stretch of concrete, their silence heavy with unspoken words, each step echoing the weight of their unexpressed thoughts. Initially he was rather quiet. Yet, he inquired about the book I had been feigning to read while in detention. A chuckle escaped me. I genuinely found it amusing. "Did you catch that?" He smiled broadly. "You continued to flip through the pages, yet your gaze remained fixed." Following that, our conversation turned to literature, and melody, and movies he insisted I was too young to know, as if he didn't grasp that I was nearly twice his age. I repeatedly reassured myself that this was insignificant, that he was merely exercising courtesy. I was showing kindness. Such kindness comes without repercussions. Yet, as we arrived at my block, he failed to look back. He accompanied me right to my doorstep. As I extended my hand towards my keys, he remarked, "Your smile is quite lovely, Mrs. Holloway." I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. He observed. Thus he remarked, "I apologize." All I uttered was, "It is not." What I intended to convey was, "It's been ages since I last heard that." On the third occasion he accompanied me home, He refrained from asking. He simply existed in that moment. Resting against the familiar fence, one foot propped up, hands tucked into the pockets of that well-worn black hoodie. He nodded as if we were seamlessly continuing a conversation already in progress. And I remained silent. We strolled once more. It had become effortless at this point, exceedingly simple. I neglected to inquire why it seemed to be the highlight of my day. We engaged in conversations about trivial matters. What is it about the school heaters that makes them consistently overcompensate? Can a 17-year-old truly grasp the essence of jazz? The reasons behind my decision to forego wearing a ring. That final remark flowed from his lips with an unsettling ease. I took a moment to stop. You observe all the details, don't you? Exclusively at my discretion. He uttered it without a flicker of hesitation. I made a promise to myself to remain silent on that matter. I decided to shift the conversation. Attempted to. Yet the silence lingered between us, challenging and profound. And then he uttered those words. Do you find yourself feeling isolated? I came to a halt. He certainly did as well. Pardon me. His gaze remained unwavering. I mean, you stroll back home by yourself. One finds oneself in solitude. Your evenings are consumed by solitary grating. You're not aware of that. Do I not? The wind began to stir then. It wasn't truly cold, yet it carried a chill that seeped into the bones. A breeze that awakens the very sensation of skin, reminding the body of its delicate presence. That you can still sense something. Perhaps you have the desire to. I averted my gaze, concentrated on the pavement. I'm not lonely, I declared. And I believe we were both aware it was a deception. Yet he refrained from pressing the matter. He ambled forward once more, his pace a touch more measured. As we arrived at my door, he lingered, neither seeking gratitude nor awaiting consent. Merely a note to express this. Were I in your position, I would feel the weight of solitude as well. And then he departed. I lingered there for what felt like an eternity, my keys clutched tightly in my hand, pondering the moment I ceased to be astonished by his ability to inflict pain with such tenderness. The rain fell once more, a steady rhythm against the world. Not the boisterous sort. Gentle, unwavering, and enduring. He was without an umbrella. Naturally, he did not. His hood was soaked. His eyelashes shimmered with moisture. I ought to have bid farewell at the curb as I always do. I meant to. Yet I witnessed him tremble. And the words flowed from me as if triggered by a long-buried instinct. Feel free to step inside, merely to rid oneself of moisture. He paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. However, it won't last long. I brought water to a rolling boil. He lingered uncomfortably in the doorway, as if aware that settling in would be inappropriate. He scarcely glanced about. I refrained from prying. There I remained in my serene abode, a place where solitude reigned supreme after the clock struck 5. I offered him a cup of tea, chamomile. He wore a smirk yet accepted it. I wouldn't have guessed you were into herbs, he remarked. I didn't expect you to be the type to indulge in that, I replied. We exchanged smiles. It was not mere flirtation. Not at this moment. Only acknowledgement. Two individuals sharing a silence that neither of us dared to define. He perched on the brink of the couch. Moist socks lay twisted upon the cool tile. I sat in the chair across from him, excessively distant to feel near. So near that I couldn't deny the sensation, the suspense, the consciousness. He inquired about the picture resting on the bookshelf. My daughter and I, at the tender age of 3, enveloped in a sweet layer of frosting. He gestured toward the frame. Does she resemble you? She bore a striking resemblance to her father. He remains unspoken. Not much to elaborate on. He allowed that to linger in the air. She lifted her cup, savoring the warmth, and remarked, You strike me as a person who excelled in matters of the heart. Just once. A chuckle escaped me, not due to its humor. Yet, it was the first occasion in years that someone had expressed something like that to me. And I believed him, and despised the fact that I had placed my trust in him. He departed a mere 10 minutes later. I didn't make any attempts. Did not tarry. He drained the last sip of his tea, expressed his gratitude, and stepped back into the downpour. Yet, just before he took his leave, he lingered in the threshold and proclaimed, "I appreciate you allowing me to join." The house was not the focal point. It was an unspoken truth between us. I never intended to. That's what I told myself. When I first neglected to secure the door, it was merely a matter of routine. A momentary slip. A fleeting lapse in focus. Yet it was not. I verified it that evening. I consistently verify it. I lingered at the threshold, fingers resting on the cold deadbolt. I did not turn it. I reassured myself that it was insignificant, that he would not arrive. He was unaware. He ought not to be aware of that. Yet a subtle hushed voice within me murmured, "What if he did?" Upon returning home 2 days later, I was greeted by a knock at the door. Not at the entrance. In the rear. The exclusive one. The option that remains untouched by all. With deliberate care I eased it open. He lingered in that spot, his backpack hanging low, an air of uncertainty about him, as if he didn't truly believe I would agree. Yet there was a flicker of hope in his eyes that suggested otherwise. I remained silent. I have merely taken a step back. He entered uninvited this time. He removed his shoes. He let his hoodie fall onto the chair as if it were meant to rest there. Once more I brewed a cup of tea. Our conversation was sparse. There was no necessity for that. He reclined on the couch. I took my place beside him, nearer this time, near enough to sense the warmth radiating from his leg, so near that with the slightest turn of my head, our noses would almost touch. Yet I refrained. Nor did he. We simply remained in our seats. Time slips away unnoticed. Currently not engaged in any viewing. As he rose to depart, he offered no words of gratitude. He remained expressionless. He merely stated, "I appreciate the sensation of this." Yet I remained silent. For the same reason I did as well. And that was the most perilous aspect of it all. It's amusing how swiftly the once prohibited transforms into the mundane. It's remarkable how one can convince themselves that a boundary remains unbroken when no one has witnessed the transgression. It began with a single visit, then yet another. And then it ceased to be visits altogether. He simply materialized behind my back door, occasionally with damp locks. At times words seemed to elude me. At times there was a depth in his gaze that spoke volumes. What about me? I ceased to secure it. It wasn't intentional. Initially, no. Yet on the third occasion as I heard his knock, it dawned on me that the door wasn't even secured. I left it as it was. And when I came home from school the next afternoon and found him already there, sitting on my back steps, elbows on his knees, waiting like we did this every Thursday, I refrained from inquiring further. He entered silently, offering no greeting. He tossed his shoes aside as if he were meant to be there. He swung open the cabinet door and retrieved his favorite mug. He enjoyed the refreshing taste of green tea infused with a hint of lemon. He remarked that it made him feel older. We reclined on the couch. Near. Stillness. The television emitted a stream of inconsequential images and sounds. In the soft illumination of the screen, I ceased to feign ignorance of his knee lightly grazing against mine. I ceased the charade that his breath didn't soothe a restlessness within me that had lingered for years. He reclined, arms extended behind his head, and for a fleeting moment, the edge of his shirt rose slightly. I gazed. And he noticed my gaze upon him, did not smirk, remained silent. Allow the moment to linger, gentle and abundant, filled with unexpressed thoughts. As he rose to depart an hour later, he made no request for a ride back home. He left without a word of farewell. He merely gazed at me from the threshold and uttered, "Please remember to keep the light on next time." Indeed, I followed through. He consistently referred to me as ma'am. Even in moments when it wasn't necessary. Even after the detentions came to a close. Even after the steaming cups of tea, the hushed nights, the back door intentionally left ajar. Initially, I convinced myself it was merely a routine. Honor. A child exhibiting good manners. Yet with every utterance a knot formed deep within me. It served as a poignant reminder of the person I was meant to become. And who I was forbidden to become. On that particular night, a Wednesday, he lingered longer than usual. "It's too late." Without a second thought, I slipped into my robe, my feet bare and my hair a wild cascade. He reclined on the couch, head tilted back, eyes half closed as if he were meant to be there. As I presented him with the tea, a slow smile spread across his face and he remarked, "Thank you, ma'am." And I recoiled. He beheld it. I averted my gaze and retreated to the kitchen, concealing the flush on my cheeks and the weight of embarrassment that settled in my bones. "Please don't refer to me that way," I murmured softly. I never intended for those words to escape my lips. Yet it emerged regardless. I sensed his presence behind me even before the sound reached my ears. His voice drew nearer, gentler. "So what name shall I use for you?" I chose not to respond. My hands remained clasped around the edge of the counter, holding on as if it were a lifeline. He edged nearer, refraining from contact. Not at this moment, yet near enough to sense. "Speak it," he murmured. With deliberate slowness I pivoted. His gaze remained unwavering, kept my gaze steady, didn't regard me as someone to be handled delicately or with hesitation, merely a person he desired. "You can call me Claire," I said. He offered a smile, spoke it softly, almost inaudibly. "Claire." And it shattered me. For the first time in years someone had uttered my name in such a way, as if it were devoid of any label, as if it were a hidden truth. A vow. A new dawn. He refrained from kissing me. Not at this moment. Yet he extended his hand and gently tucked my hair behind my ear. I surrendered to the warmth of his touch. Merely a touch. Sufficiently ample. I realized that I wouldn't hold him back the next time around. It unfolded gradually. It unfolded differently than the tales suggest, devoid of fervor and urgency, lacking the frantic tugging at fabric in the shadows. Negative. It unfolded gradually, silently, as if we had experienced it countless times in our minds before. The moment had been poised, anticipating our arrival. We simply needed to take that first step inside. He stood in my kitchen. With my feet bare and my robe flowing freely, I let my tea sit on the counter, its warmth fading away, forgotten. He had merely uttered my name, Claire, and I had allowed it to happen. I allowed him to claim it as if it were his own now, and a part of me shattered wide open. I remained still as he approached me. I remained silent as his hand grazed my arm, my hip, the knot of my robe. His fingers moved with a deliberate calm. They came to a halt, anticipated, inquiring silently. In the stillness, I offered my response without a word. I remained still, offering no acknowledgement. I did not murmur yes. I simply leaned into him, embracing the warmth, into the desire. He caressed me as if it were a familiar act, as if he was already familiar with the contours of my solitude, as if he held no fear of it. And for once, I wasn't either. Time seemed to stretch, devoid of any pressing need, free from remorse, merely a surface. Inhale deeply. His lips met mine as if he had been longing to bring this moment to life. Silence enveloped the room as we stepped into the bedroom. His lips sealed, words unspoken. There was no necessity for him to do so. As soon as I drew him down beside me, the moment had passed to feign our absence from that place. He remained. That was the element I found surprising. I believed he would rise, reattach his shirt, utter a half-hearted remark and fade into the shadows. Yet he chose not to. Afterward, he drew the blanket snugly around us. He adjusted his position, allowing one arm to slip beneath my neck, and embraced me, as if it were the most instinctive act imaginable, as if he possessed an entitlement to occupy that space, as if my bed had been anticipating his arrival. His breath began to ease first, then take mine. His chest rose and fell against my shoulder, a steady rhythm, warm and undeniably real, and I simply reclined there, allowing myself to be embraced as if I were not a flaw. It had been ages since anyone attempted that. Not a single soul remained. Not amidst the silence. Not by means of the quiet. His fingers brushed against my spine, a delicate touch that felt like he was inscribing unspoken words in the air between us. In the quiet hours, somewhere between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m., I surrendered to the darkness and closed my eyes. Not due to fatigue, Yet, I found myself unwilling to confront a reality where this could not be permitted. I wished to remain here, within the shadows, within the embrace of warmth, in the transgression that no longer bore the weight of guilt. As I stirred from my slumber, just moments shy of dawn's embrace, he remained by my side. In slumber, tranquil, as if I were a boy unaware of the weight of the pain I bore. Perhaps he did after all. Perhaps that's the reason he chose to remain. I found myself in the corridor. The third period had just come to a close. The familiar throng, chuckling, bellowing, banging lockers as if attempting to break through the very fabric of time. And then it reached my ears. Not with great volume. It was never intended for my grasp. Merely two girls by the vending machines. One among them remarked, "Have you heard the news about Luca Meyer?" I stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. Each fragment of my being. One heartbeat acceptable. With the next heartbeat I find myself submerged. I remained utterly motionless, as if my expression would betray me the moment I stirred. The other girl chuckled softly. Shrugged. He's attractive. Yet there's an unsettling quality to him these days. The initial one. My sister mentioned that he frequently departs from school accompanied by a teacher. She insists she witnessed it on 2 separate occasions. He mentioned that he was about to enter her car. The remainder eluded my ears. My ears fell into a state of numbness. My vision swam as if I had just been struck. I hurried away, brisk, decisive strides, my heart pounding in my chest. I arrived at the faculty restroom and secured the door behind me. My hands trembled with an unsteady rhythm. My reflection appeared foreign to me. It appeared as though someone bore the weight of guilt. One who had engaged in an act so intimate, so enveloped in solitude and the yearning of the midnight hour, only to come to the unsettling realization that the world could sense it regardless. I reassured myself. They are completely unaware. My name went unspoken. Yet Luca's was sufficient. Excessive. For when an audience appears, the veil of secrecy is irrevocably lifted. It is a fissure. Moreover, it is expanding. The event unfolded in the brief interlude between classes. The most dreadful location imaginable. The most unfortunate timing imaginable. As I emerged from the copy room, a pile of papers clutched firmly against my chest. I struggled to maintain a steady breath, to project an air of normalcy, to simply be like everyone else. And then it reached my ears. Claire. I am known by a name. Certainly not Mrs. Holloway. No, ma'am. Just Claire, uttered with unwavering certainty, devoid of trepidation, and without a glance around to gauge the surroundings. I pivoted. Luca. Positioned in that moment, it felt as if this was our corridor. As if the world remained unchanged. His gaze locked onto mine, a gentle warmth spreading across his features, as if he longed for my presence. As if we were the only ones in existence. Yet we were not. I noticed the heads pivoting. 2 students linger by the lockers. A different educator further along the corridor. Silence enveloped the room. Yet their gazes sharpened. Their inquisitiveness intensified. A revelation had taken shape. I strode right by him. Never glanced back. Not a single word was uttered. Yet within I was coming apart at the seams. Regardless of the precautions we had taken. No matter the stillness of the nights, the gentleness of the footsteps, or the security of the once locked doors. He uttered my name. And it reverberated. Not in the atmosphere, but in the manner in which conversations would begin to unfold. As if silence trailed behind me, lingering in every room I entered. In the manner in which my universe, the one I had sheltered behind closed curtains and delicate teacups, accompanied by quivering hands, was no longer solely my own. As the night unfolded, he sent a message. I apologize. I never intended to. I simply longed for you. I chose not to respond. I found myself poised at the threshold. Fingers poised on the latch. Yet again. I rotated it.